Next time you are out in public or in school or at your job and you walk into that building, that first couple minutes, I want you to analyze how you feel. Does the way that you walk change? Are you consciously monitoring the way that you walk? Are you monitoring where your eyes go? This facial expressions that you make when somebody walks by? What do? How do you feel, right, when you go into public? Then I want you to analyze next time you're around some children, how they interact with one another. What do they say? What do they do? What's their body language like? And I want you to compare it. For me, this last week, I was on a trail. I like to go and be with Jesus on my own sometimes, and I walk and I pray, and it's good for me. And I passed by a mother and her children. And when I walked by, the children, they had no idea who I was. They were probably 4, 5, 6 years old, a couple of them. And they look to me and they say, "Hi." Hi. I say, "Hi." And then I look to the mom, and she doesn't even make eye contact with me. And I'm like, okay. So I got to see the difference in interaction between a full-grown adult, and I'm not judging this person. I myself, I can be the same exact way. In one instance, we see the innocence and the sense of wonder that a child has at the most simplest things, and the interactions that they have with other people are totally maskless. But us, when we grow up, we lose that sense of innocence and that sense of wonder, but most of all, that humility. There's a time in the 18th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. It says, "At that time, Jesus' disciples came to him, saying, 'Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?'" So Jesus' disciples in this moment, they're arguing amongst themselves, probably using theology or times that they've done things, that they've proven themselves to each other or Jesus. "I'm going to be the greatest. No, I'm going to be the greatest. Look what I've done." And they're arguing. Then what did Jesus do? He called a little child to him. He set the child in the midst of them and said, "Assuredly, I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." In verse 3, he says, "You guys are worried about who's going to be the greatest. I say to you, nobody will even enter the kingdom unless you are made like this little child." This child is probably 4, 5, 6 years old. In the midst, Jesus pulls this child and sets him in the midst of a bunch of adults, a bunch of teachers, a bunch of workers, a bunch of businessmen, a bunch of farmers, a bunch of tax collectors. And he says to all of them, rich and poor, smart and foolish, unless you become like this little child in your heart, you won't even go to heaven. You can't even know me. And when we walk in public, when we interact with other people, we're able to see, if we analyze ourselves, this mask that we put on. Why? Because we want to be perfect. We want to be like God. This is in our nature. But Jesus is saying, humble yourself like a little child. For we cannot know our need for Jesus unless we become simple and lowly and innocent and humble and meek and poor in spirit and strong desires for a father, for a guidance of life and light, and pour out our hearts in prayer and go to the Word and say, Jesus, I want to know you. It's impossible to know God without this kind of humility. And for me, it's a daily struggle. So, like I said, my challenge for you is this. Analyze yourself next time you go out in public. How do you feel? Oh my gosh, am I walking in the right way? Do I have something on my shirt? Please don't let me embarrass myself today. Because sometimes we can be locked in this mentality. But be free in Jesus' name. Jesus said, take my yoke upon you, for I am meek and I am lowly, and my burden is peaceful. It's joyful. It's easy. It's light. That's my challenge for you. Seek Jesus with this humble heart. Pray for me to do the same thing. Alrighty? God bless y'all. Keep it G. You know what I'm saying?